It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. So today we're covering a new Garuda loadout, which I'm going to be dubbing Zombie 2.0. With this build loadout, you can kill maximum level enemies in record time. They just basically instantly die, and you have an extremely hard time dying due to the new changes I've made to this Garuda loadout, making it where we basically are just constantly regenerating shields or invincible, or a little bit of both. So let's get right into it. But before we do, make sure you sub this channel. We do daily Warframe video uploads, news videos, build videos, discussion videos, all that kind of stuff in the right place for Warframe content. And thank you a ton for the support on the recent videos and streams, guys. Okay, so for what Garuda is doing here, it's basically... I haven't been playing as much Garuda recently because Sevagoth has just been so strong. But I think with this loadout, Sevagoth might be going back on the shelf, and Garuda's coming back. Because unlike Sevagoth, who has a not great time surviving, Garuda can insta-kill these max level enemies and can survive very easily. So let's get into what we're doing here and explaining how some of Garuda's abilities are working and being buffed by some of these new companion changes. So we're in the Simulacrum right now, and I have not even really put a build or I have the build to put together. I have not really buffed anything up. So showing with no buffs right now what we're doing with this build. We've got the Nourish ability from Grendel, which gives you viral damage on all attacks, and uniquely on Garuda will buff her abilities too, because her abilities count as weapons and abilities for some instances. Additionally, since Nourish gives you energy multiplier increase, as well, we have the third ability, Bloodletting from Garuda, which gives us energy. So as you see right there, we go from 80 energy to a 759 from one ability cast. And with the Arcanes running, we can actually go back to full health very easily, and we just have a really, really straightforward time with Garuda, surviving and killing. How we'll be killing these high-level enemies? Well, we'll be using the recently buffed Dreadmere ability, which can now jump on Eximus Overguard, or any Overguard for that matter, and gives you a percentage of the enemy's health as the Blood Orb. So this Blood Orb right here is a percentage of that Thrax's health I jumped on. I could keep jumping on them to increase it even more, but for this build, you shouldn't need to be over-buffing it. Basically, one jump should do for level 10,000s. Now that we've got this Blood Orb, what do we do with it? Well, we want to cast our fourth ability from Garuda to debuff them with the Slash. Then we want to throw the orb, and now we will get a Slash proc from that orb that could do some big, big damage. Now, how are we buffing this to make it an even easier one-shot and hardly any viral procs required? Well, you might notice a buff on my bar that was not there before. It's called Anabolic Pollination. This is the ability of the Pharaoh Predisite, and it's to give us 100% increased toxin damage on our weapons. And as I stated earlier, Garuda's Blood Orb is a weapon and an ability. So we are getting a 100% toxin damage increase from the Pharaoh Predisite's Anabolic Pollination ability. So basically the dog will shake around, and if you walk over to where the dog was shaken, it will give you this buff, and that buff is on an unarmored enemy, it will basically double the damage of the Blood Orb. Against armored enemies, it's still a decent chunk of damage. But yeah, Nourish is also going to be buffing this too to make our orb viral damage. So we'll be getting viral on our orb, and then the Anabolic Pollination Toxin is just going to combine even more viral, basically. So yeah, you can make this work pretty well. And additionally, we're also using the Vigorous Swap mod for the Warframe to buff the orb once we swap weapons. It could be a very, very big damage chunk, and you could actually hit the damage display cap with his ability relatively easily if you're really buffing it up. So let's go over some of the things and mods we're using here. And keep in mind, I do not really think you need an Emerald Archon Shard on here. I had it on here for the dual Tox, but again, after a while I said, I don't even need these dual Tox anymore. So going forward, I'd probably change this to another Parkour or Casting Speed Shard, or maybe even a Power Shrink Shard or something. So as far as the loadout, we've got a fully Tau Sharded up Garuda Prime here, and the Tau Shards are as follows. 2 Parkour Velocity Tau Shards for jumping around the room really fast. 2 Casting Speed Tau Shards because she casts a lot of abilities. Again, this is a not as easy to play frame as Revenant, but can still kill stuff really easily and survive very easily. And again, I have a Corrosive Stack Increasing Shard. On the current patch of Warframe, you don't really need this. I wouldn't really recommend running this, but you can if you want to. And as stated, we have the Pharaoh Predisite dog here. I'll show that stuff in a second. But yeah, there are still some glitches with the dogs, unfortunately, in the Simulacrum. So I'm not going to don't trust every little number you see of the dog's stats. Now, as far as the build on Garuda Zombie 2.0, we have sacrificed our shield gating from jumping and casting Nourish to basically shield regeneration. And why is that? Well, during Garuda's fourth ability, Seeking Talons, you are invincible. And during that invincibility time, your shields can regenerate, which is pretty powerful given the amount of shields we actually have on here. With Primary Direction, we have a 2.4 second shield gate duration. which means we're invincible for 2.4 seconds, and if we are in our Seeking Talons, we can be invincible for even longer. So during that long invincibility time, we can regenerate our shields to pretty much full. It depends on the exact situation. But yeah, very good there. Also, Garuda's third ability, Bloodletting, removes status procs from you, as does Rolling Guard. So we have invincibility here, invincibility in our 4, and invincibility from Shield Gate. If you add all that stuff together, it's about like 8-10 seconds of invincibility, which is pretty disgusting. Since we have both shield regeneration mods on here, we can actually get our shields back pretty quick. And Brief Rest will kickstart our shield regeneration, as our 4th ability, Seeking Talons, costs 100 energy, and we'll get 150 energy from this mod. The rest of the stuff on here is just to either have quality of life or to buff some of our abilities up. As I stated, Vigorous Swap is going to work on our Blood Orb to make it do massively increased damage, as will Nourish. Nourish will make the Dread Orb from Dread Mirror do viral damage, and with Anabolic Pollination, it's going to be about 164% damage increase as an elemental mod. You throw on Vigorous Swap, it should multiply that all up and be very, very nice. As far as our Arcanes here, Arcane Aegis, definitely not needed in this build. If you want to go for a different Arcane, feel free, like Molt Augmento would be fine. But yeah, on shield damage, 3% chance to have basically Shield Gate, Regen, Crazy Mode for 12 seconds. Now, an Arcane you need to have this for Garuda. Every Garuda player in the game needs to have this Arcane, Molt Reconstruct. Heal yourself and allies with affinity range whenever you cast an ability. And it scales how much ability energy you use. So with our stuff right here, we cut our health with a 3rd ability, Bloodletting, and we cast any ability to get all that health back instantly. It's an infinite energy and health loop right there between those two things. So that's pretty powerful. Showing it in practice real quick, we can just hop into some unpaused enemies over here. Let's get some, like, gunners, I guess, just to show how that really works. Unpause them. So I've got Nourish active, I've got my Bloodletting active, I jump on them. They are stunned when I jump on them. I mean, this is really not fair at all. Only 3 heavy gunners. You also have a blood shield up when you jump on them that is basically impenetrable. I take it back. It can be penetrated by enemy melee attacks. But yeah, the enemy cannot shoot through this, and if they shoot the blood shield, I actually charge up my orb even more. So, yeah, the dog actually took care of them there. Because the dog is basically our little hellhound, and it can just really kill enemies easily. Its Anabolic Pollination will also buff its own attacks to be doing even more damage. So, if we actually want to cast our abilities here, we can nuke this enemy down relatively easily. There's a 1.1 million slash proc. Again, you can see billions of damage slash procs if you really stack it up, but that's not necessary for pretty much anything in the game. Now, moving on to all the video's not about the weapons. Let's just show the dog here. So we've got the Fool, basically a JoJo reference to Iggy, and we have all the chitined mutagens and antigens. This stuff is not important at all. How do you get this dog to be chitined and mutagened up? Well, you have to take some other dogs, like these ones. I have a dog with 2 antigens here and 2 mutagens here. We got to get another dog with 2 mutagens and antigens. We want to combine the 2 dogs together that both have double mutagens and antigens, the different ones, and then those dogs combined together will become the 4X dog with the 4 mutagens and antigens. It's really not important unless you're going for like a health build. We're not going for a health build, but I still have it and want to show you guys that. But yeah, we have the Pharaoh Predisite right here, and the Pharaoh Predisite does have some unique abilities that do buff that blood orb up. Specifically, Anabolic Pollination. As I stated, go over and pick up that cloud of toxic gas, and then you will buff all your attacks. Fortunately and unfortunately, this buffs your Operator amp, but it does not buff your damage against Thrax, because Thrax can only take void damage. This is not giving you void damage. It's giving you toxin damage in your amp, which means you could do like, toxin procs with your amp. But yeah, that will not be increasing your damage to the Thrax at all, unfortunately. It's for your other stuff. But still a pretty powerful ability. If you don't want to run Anabolic Pollination, you could run Volatile Parasite, which basically means the parasite that the dog's going to spit out will make an AoE explosion when an enemy latched to it dies. I would not recommend Endoparasitic Vector. It's just not seeming like a very good ability, even though they did patch it to be a little bit better than what it used to be. Yeah, main one here, Anabolic Pollination, big damage buff for the dog. Additionally, we've got things like Reinforced Bond to increase fire rate if we want to use our dual tox, and Tenacious Bond to give increased critical damage on anything that we have equipped. Momentous Bond will bring the dog back from the dead quicker, and Contagious Bond will make the dog do AoE fire procs on kill. This thing can actually kill some high-level enemies relatively easily, but also we can do that too, so yeah. You might have noticed that my Garuda's build had pretty much no range on it. That is like one of the only weaknesses for this build. It is meant for like 1 to 2 enemies at a time, 1 to 2 elite enemies being killed at once. If you want a larger AoE build, you want to throw in some range mods for sure. As far as our dog's claws, we've got Burning Claws here, making all of our damage into fire damage. Again, in the Simulacrum, it's supposed to, this dog is supposed to have gas and puncture damage built in, but there's a lot of glitches right now in the current update, so like, you just can't really mod properly. I look at this right here. Melee damage converts all physical damage to slash. I put this on here, it takes away the gas damage, so it's taking away the elemental damage too, so there's definitely some glitches that need to be fixed here, but either way, I'd still recommend a build like this, with just basically big DOT damage. Now, since we are running a slash proc build, we are not the best against Corpus with shields. So if you want to have your dog be a little bit more synergistic with Garuda here, you can put on Sepsis Claws instead of Burning Claws. It will bypass enemies' shields if you're fighting like a Corpus or whatever, and it will be AoE Toxin Kill, which we can't really do as easily with our Garuda. So that's an option right there, but Burning Claws is usually just better, so I'd rather recommend that one in the long run. Now, as far as the dog, why does that dog have a 430% status chance and 109% crit chance? Well, it's probably because this Perish Prime got equipped right here with the Elemental Balance perk. We are actually linking our dog stats to our primary, so you want to go for as much status chance and crit chance as possible. With a crit chance, status chance Riven, and all this other stuff, you get a ton of status and crit. There's also a Hunter Track. The companion deals more damage to enemies affected by slash. A lot of things will be affected by slash, and the dog itself deals slash, so it's just pretty much a free damage increase right here. And also, the Perish Prime is the best because it has Visage Ball as the option for the Exilus slot, which also gives you more status chance. No other weapon has a status chance increasing Exilus slot like this. So yeah, with the base 552% status chance and 257% crit chance, our dog links to that with Hunter Synergy and Mecha Overdrive, getting big stats. So, powerful dog for sure. Now, that dog is great. You know, I'm getting more damage buffs in my Blood Orb than ever before, but there are other options. You know, if you don't feel like you need all this damage, the Haraz Kubrow is actually another really good option. Look at the screen right now. The Invisible Dog, you can stay invisible as Garuda with this dog, and if you're only, like, again, if you're only using abilities like I'd recommend, you could just be perma-invis. You basically jump on them, Blood Orb and slash, rinse and repeat. It is perma-invisible as long as you don't fire a gun, and also, technically, if there's no enemies nearby, you lose invisibility as well. But yeah, there will usually be enemies nearby. That's another option as well. So yeah, a very powerful setup here, guys. I had the dual tox equipped. The Anabolic Pollination was buffed with the dual tox technically. But yeah, overall, it's ability focused build here. I'll still show you the dual tox as well. But yeah, it was not really the main focus of the build. And also, the dual tox build could have been more min-max too. So here we are, the dual tox assist Incarnon. It's basically the same build as the Zombie Revenant. But yeah, since we have Anabolic Pollination now, I'm probably going to, if I do run this again on her, which I probably won't, I'd probably put like Galvanized Crosshairs to the Pistol Pestilence. The Dual Toxis gets Toxin buff on Headshot too, but it does require Headshots, which I like to have more consistent Corrosive than that, so that's why I have Pistol Pestilence. But yeah, this thing's going to have so much Toxin damage with the Anabolic Pollination and Frenzy buff, it will be really gross. So yeah, recommend a Punch the Riven on the Dual Tox to have more AoE, because our Blood Orb is relatively low range on this build. And for our other weapons, the Paris Prime and the Praetos, we have the Kratos as a mobility stat stick. You could use the Okina, the newly released Okina Incarnon, for an overall movement speed multiplier, but I do prefer to have this one, honestly. 30% parkour at all times, no Incarnon needed, and sprint and slide, not as important, but also on there too. Okina gives you a 30% movement speed multiplier at all times, but also parkour. I find parkour to be more noticeable. So something you could do with this Garuda build is basically just like jump around the room really fast. So we like go up here, we cast our 4. The 4 keeps you airborne. You can jump at an enemy while you're airborne and get your Blood Orb and jump back into the air. Just basically descend upon the humans, I guess. If you're a vampire, descend upon the humans. Like right there. A little bit more range would be nice, but yeah. Jump on them, you got your Blood Orb, now you can jump back up. Vigorous swap to get your Blood Orb buffed, and those guys should be definitely dead. So, yeah, pretty nasty stuff. Anabolic Pollination giving 100% Toxin buff, and Nourish giving a viral buff just combines very nicely with that Blood Orb. You could kill pretty much any normal-ish enemy with this combo of abilities. For Demolist, haven't really tried it, but it should probably be okay against Demolist too. So, that's going to be basically it for the video, guys. Super powerful stuff. Again, you could use the Haraz Kubra if you prefer to be invisible all the time, but I do like the Pharaoh Predisite quite a bit. We'll have another Pharaoh Predisite video coming out tomorrow with a different build. So, enjoy it. Have fun with Zombie Garuda, and I'll see you next time. Peace!